What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd Out. Now, as we all know, One Piece is on break this week, so it's not going to be a huge discussion until next week, but instead we're going to talk about some anime, and actually one that's not an anime, but I've been seeing the name pop up everywhere, so I've gotten curious about it. And to top all that off, we're going to be talking about the new Demon Slayer movie, because I've seen it and I want to discuss it. Now, as always, if you have not come to the latest chapters and episodes, please note there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
So first things first, we got a few season 2 announcements out there. This is about the time where we start seeing announcements for different anime that are coming back that have been gone for a little bit. You'll be seeing a lot of them pop up in the next few days or weeks. Just giving you a rundown of what's to come. And personally for me, there are two that stuck out so far that I've seen. One is Wisteria Season 2. Now, we already knew that Season 2 was announced back when Season 1 came out. They had already announced that Season 2 was greenlit. But they have like the promo art for it and everything. They're just reminding everybody, yeah, we got Season 2 in the tuck. If you guys don't remember Wisteria or haven't seen it, one, go check it out. Wisteria is a fantastic anime. I even did reactions on my channel for Wisteria. That's how much I loved it. It's such a good time. To give a brief synopsis, it's basically about this young boy who is enrolled in a school for wizards or like magic users and can't use magic. Now, the full title of the anime is called Wisteria Wand and Sword, so it kind of gives you the idea that, well, if he's not using a wand, well, he's using a sword. So he's a really skilled swordsman, and that's kind of like his own magic is just being really good with the sword. To the point where he can compete with magic, where he can fight the strongest of the strong with just his sword. And now you go through the landscape of you're in a school of magic users, they all look down on him, they treat him like a third-rate citizen. Basically, they treat him like garbage because he can't use magic, even though he could body probably 98% of the people in the school. Some of the teachers included. And his best friend happens to be one of the greatest mages of their time. She's one of like the 5 top mages that are held to a high rank, which is where everyone tries to get to pretty much. The entire reason of going to these schools is so they can reach that top height and be one of like the top mages of the world. That's what everyone's clawing to. That's also where Will wants to go. But not having any magic, obviously that's a very far off dream. The animation is fantastic. The humor, I love the characters. It's such a cool little world, and it's not complicated. Like, it's not this complex overarching story with like different twists and plot points. It's a fairly straightforward story. A lot of people compared it to like Mashal, where you have one kid who kind of doesn't fit in with the rest of them, but eventually starts to fit in. It's a very similar type of story. It's just really good. Like I enjoyed it so much that this is one of the things where I'm so excited about the second season. I already know they're going to react to and stuff, but the fact that I usually don't get excited for seasonals. I usually don't wait for a seasonal to pop up. But this one, I am locked and loaded, ready for it. They also announced that Cleavitus is getting a second season. And that's one of the seasonal anime that's running now, and probably my second favorite behind Fragrant Flower. If you haven't seen that, that's about a story where there are these dark beasts that kind of reside around this civilization. And the people inside the civilization have never been past that because they can't get past the dark beasts. The dark beasts pretty much have a guard that circles around the entire civilization. There's no way they can get to the rest of the world. Now this civilization creates heroes essentially to go out and try and cleave a way through the dark beasts so they can see the other side. They can see what's out along the rest of the world. And all these heroes keep failing. And we follow the story of one of the heroes who initially tries, fails, but she comes into some unexpected luck as far as whether she dies or not. And then the story kind of progresses from there. I believe there's, as of this recording, one more episode left before the season ends. Very good stuff. I would say check it out. Now, the one that I was talking about that is not an anime is called Knights of Guinevere. And I've been seeing this pop up time and time again. I don't know what it's about. I don't know why it's as hype as it is. I don't even know where this is going to be like airing. As far as like, is it going to be a YouTube series? Is it going to be like something on Amazon? Where it's going to be, I have no idea. But I figured I'd watch the trailer and see what it's all about. A fairly interesting trailer. I still don't have a full idea of what it's about. but it seems like there's almost this utopia-esque world, but there's a lot behind the scenes that they're trying to cover up as far as like the dark mechanizations of it. I'm intrigued. I'll check it out. I'll see if it's gonna capture my interest. Yeah, I've been seeing that all over my timeline, and I just had no idea what it was. At first I thought it was an anime, but the more I saw it, the more I was like, there's something about this that screams Western animation. And I think it's an American Australian animation, so that's probably closer in the wheelhouse to like something you would find on something you'd probably find on Amazon, or like it'd be a Prime Video or a YouTube series, something like that. I'd be curious to see where we go from there. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. But to the biggest talking point of the episode, Demon Slayer. So Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle. Movie's out. The movie is breaking every record that's out there. It had the biggest opening weekend. It's the second highest grossing Japanese animated film, I think, to date, with Mugen Train being the only thing above it. And I think if it continues at this trajectory, it's going to beat Mugen Train. And it's like a worldwide phenomenon. They had these cool popcorn buckets for like some of the characters that sold out immediately because all the theaters did a really stupid thing where they started selling them before the movie was out, and they didn't limit how many they sold. Just terrible practice all around. Really stupid. I wanted to get one for Shinobu because she's my favorite character, but of course they hadn't when I went there. I'm slightly bitter about that, but you know, we move on. So the biggest question, because I've seen a lot of debate on Twitter about this, was the movie good? Was it worthwhile? Is it worth all this hype? And we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to break it down because personally, I'll give my opinion up front. I thought the movie was good. I'll say this. I initially left. I was very upset with the movie. Upset to the point where I wanted to call it bad. But I thought about it a little bit. I had to like really go over the movie itself in my head. And I think the movie itself is good. I'm not going to say it's the greatest anime movie I've seen, because personally I don't think it is, but it was really good. It was well done. Obviously it's from Ufotable, so like the animation was top notch, unbeatable. There are things that I really liked about it. There are things that I didn't like about it. So let's start with the good. And honestly, one of my favorite parts about the movie was the flashbacks. A lot of people were saying that it was basically just flashback after flashback after flashback. I'm okay with that, because here's the thing about Demon Slayer. The story is not very interesting. Like, it's very one-dimensional. Tanjiro wants to rescue Nezuko. He wants to turn her back into a human. You know, that's 80% of the story. And then Muzan wants to live in the sun. Those are the two really big driving factors for this story. Outside of that, there isn't really a lot of interesting things going on in the story plot-wise. Like, you have occasional moments where the characters do something interesting, or they have the moments to shine. A lot of that stuff is flashback. When you meet one of the Hashiras, their flashback has a lot of their characterization in it, to the point where if you don't get the flashback, you don't care about the Hashiras. Like, outside of a surface level care. Because like, I would say Rengoku doesn't really get a flashback, but he's beloved. And I think that's just because of his personality. The bombastic nature of a character like Rengoku is usually a fan favorite. But I mean, if you look at some of the Hashiras, like outside of their backstories, them just existing in the story isn't very interesting. I think the only one that I find to be complex enough in the mainline story is Shinobu, which is why she's my favorite. I think her character dynamic is one of the best, as far as like, she's not just a one-dimensional character. You know, we first meet her and she's very happy, she's very cheery, smiling all the time, things like that. And even before we really delve into her backstory, we kind of get glimpses of different sides of her personality, where it's like, she's cheery all the time, but she's kind of got this, I don't know, this other side to her where she's tweaking a little bit. Something's not quite right. And like through, for example, when she's talking to Tanjiro on the rooftop, and Tanjiro immediately clocks her, like, why are you so angry? That's one of the moments where I really came to love her character, because it's like, she's constantly putting on this front of cheerfulness and happiness, and meanwhile, she's got this unbridled rage that's always boiling within her. And someone like Tanjiro, who's very sensitive to that kind of stuff, immediately notices it. And then we get to learn a lot about her character in the main story. And that's one of the things that's really important, is that we learn about her as the story progresses. It's not all carried in a flashback. There's information here too we can learn from. And then there's the other instance where she's like fighting the spider demon. And she initially like pulls up and she's talking very cordially to her, but there's the essence of like, yeah, she's about to kill you in the worst way possible. And then she starts talking about like basically torturing her and having her reborn. And there's just this air of like, you're not the cheery person you started off being in any context. And I like that dynamic in her. It makes her a lot more interesting. I think some of the other Hashiras are we get their backstory. That's where we come to like or dislike them. And then nothing really of the main story. Like Uzui. Uzui is really cool. He's not really that interesting. Like outside of being like flashy, strong, having like a really likable personality, I wouldn't say he's entirely interesting. You go through the entire entertainment district arc, you'll learn a little bit about him, but it's not like it's anything endearing to his character. And I haven't read the manga, so I don't know if things get more in depth, but as far as like the anime goes, it lacks some things to be desired. All that to say that Shinobu ends up passing in this movie. That was a huge hit to me. And honestly, after that happened, I felt my interest in the series as a whole plummet. And I think this is where the dislike of the movie starts. And I admit that it's a lot of bias being packed into one thing. But with Shinobu being my favorite character, I think it's expected. The other thing with that is that when I felt that she was one of the most complex characters, the fact that she has been removed means I feel like a lot of the series complexity as far as like characters has gone down. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with Demon Slayer, is that the complexity of anything in the series is really non-existent. Which is why I really like the backstories and why I'm so confused as to why everyone's complaining about it. I mean, like outside of like casual anime watchers, I get you want to see epic fights animated. But for Demon Slayer, they need these backstories. These backstories carry the story on their back. Like, no pun intended. Without the backstories, the main story is just, it's a train to the end. A slow, boring train to the end. The backstories make these characters what they are. The backstories make these characters pop and shine, differentiate. They make them worth watching. If you didn't have the backstory, like the Akaza backstory, I think is probably the best part of the movie, as far as like the overall effect it has on the entirety of the series. Which is a good thing and it's a bad thing. Because I think Akaza, as far as like a character, he was already pretty interesting as far as like Mugen Train. He became like probably a fan favorite in this movie. And the fact that they get rid of him means that they have eliminated another layer of complexity in their series. And I'm sure that the other Upper Moons are somewhat complex as well. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But as far as like me being an anime only, or like just really not deep into the manga side of things, just being in the anime side of things, it feels like you've removed a lot of complexity from the show. You know, you have Shinobu out, you have Akaza out, Rengoku's not here, Uzui's not in commission. Personally, I don't find the other Hashira that interesting. Outside of probably Gome. I think Gome has potential to be a lot more interesting of a character. We just haven't got there yet. And what it does is it leaves us with the main trio as far as like our interest in characters. So we have Tanjiro, we have Zenny, we have Inosuke. Inosuke, I love him. Very one note. He's one of the characters who I think will have more impact later in the story. As of now, he's a very basic character. A great character, but basic. There's nothing to hang on there with Inosuke. Zenny, I hated Zenny for like the first like stretch of Demon Slayer. He's annoying. When he sleeps, he's cool. When he's awake, just annoying. Completely annoying. And for the entertainment arc, when he was asleep the whole time, I was like, hey, I could get behind this. In the movie, he's awake and he's locked in, which I think is fine. It's a bit jarring considering how you come to know Zenitsu through the early stages of the anime. But once you kind of like get the feel for it, it's nice. I like it. It doesn't automatically make him one of my favorites. I think he's still He's more complex than he was before. He's more complex than Inosuke, and I honestly think he's more complex than Tanjiro as far as the main three go, but he's still not like, I don't know, I guess a main character for me. And that leaves us with Tanjiro. And that's the biggest thing I took away from this movie, is that I really don't like Tanjiro. That's why I felt like I didn't like this movie, is because it was just highlighting all of the, I would say the character flaws of Tanjiro. And I was talking to someone about this, and I was like, I bet you the movie is going to have moments where Tanjiro's just sitting there thinking to himself, not doing anything, and then nothing's going to come from it. And like the first part of the movie is that, where like literally like the first 5 minutes, Tanjiro's falling and he's doing this whole, maybe I can do this. If I hit the ground, I'm not going to survive. Maybe I can do air breathing. I can't catch my breath. It's just a constant like, maybe I can, no I can't, maybe I can, no I can't. And then someone comes and saves him. And that's my main issue with Tanjiro, is that in these big pivotal moments, you just see him stuck there in his head, and you either get a massive power up or you get nothing out of it. There's no in between. There's no stepping stones to like him achieving a greater power. It's just, he sits there and either greatness happens or greatness doesn't happen. And that's so frustrating. Like if you think about the moment where he learns like thunder breathing, or like he mimics thunder breathing, and here in this show where he gets to the see-through room, like the ability for him to just think about something that has happened before and then do it is insane. And what frustrates me is that they constantly show Tanjiro training in the anime. So much so that I get so annoyed when I see him doing like the run back and forth in the butterfly house, doing like basic body training. I'm like, okay, I get it. He's buff. He's training his body. He's honing his body. I get it. They don't show any training of when he's learning these skills that are insanely overpowered. We just get like a flashback of him seeing it once and then thinking about it, and then he's able to do it. Come on, you can make it a little bit more interesting. If he's gonna train like that, show him training, show him thinking about that time with his dad constantly, trying to learn it but not being able to do it, and then in this moment where he needs it, he can do it. That makes more sense than him just being like, oh yeah, I remember that one time my dad did something, let me try that. And then he does it and it works perfectly. It upsets me because it makes me feel like he's kind of Goku-esque, in where when he needs the power up, he'll get it. And at the same time, the people around him will suffer while he's getting that power up. And like, I wouldn't say Giyu suffers, but he clearly needs help in this fight. And he's kind of just getting smacked around while Tanjiro's over here downloading new information. It's a constant cycle of that. I wish they would do something different with him. I really wish they would. Like outside of Tanjiro, I think the story itself is really good for the movie. It's solid. Like I said, I was upset for the first probably like half of the movie because of Shinobu. And I think based on how things happened, I have some grievances. I don't necessarily think it's grievances that are like the story's written poorly. I think it's just I'm unhappy with the conclusion. And that's just something I have to live with. I understand it, so I'm not gonna knock the movie for that. I think Akaza was done perfectly. I liked Giyu a lot more in this. I used to pretty much just not care about the character. I care about him slightly more now. Not enough to really bump him up in any rankings, but he's more interesting now. Zenny got better. We barely got any Inosuke. The other Hashiras, I already didn't really care about them, so I'm not really that, I'm indifferent about them. Same with some of the other demons. I mean, I hate Doma, so I can't wait to see him get mollywopped. Otherwise, the other demons I don't really care about. Akaza obviously was great. I think his backstory was fantastic. I think the way he went out kind of upset me just because, like I said before, one, he had the story's complexity in his hands, and two, very strong character that even two Hashira level people couldn't touch. And that actually brings up another point, and it's something that I kind of just don't like about Demon Slayer in general, is that the Hashira are severely outclassed. Like, you've got Hashira trying to go up against these upper moons and failing. And it's like 1v1, 2v1, 3v1. They are struggling. So at the end of the day here, like, what are we doing as far as like power creep? Because they have to get strong enough to beat the demons. That's kind of how the story works. I'm imagining it's going to be a lot of jumping. It's going to be like a 4v1, a 5v1, because otherwise they're not they're not touching these demons. I think Giyu is supposed to be one of the stronger ones. Someone gave me like a ranking of the Hashiras as far as strength goes. I think Giyu was at least top 5, and that Kazuo's put work on him. But all in all, I'd say I think it was a good movie. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I'm not going to knock it for the points that I personally dislike. But I think there are some things about how Tanjiro is written that makes the movie a little bit unbearable to watch at certain times. Otherwise, everything else was immaculate. But that is going to do it for today's episode. If you saw the movie, or if you have any of the seasonals that you want to talk about, anything that's coming out that you're excited about, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.